I did see the show of hands of people who visited the Chicago Public Library. I heard on the side those who felt excited about the Chicago Public Library as a challenge. I'm just actually curious, please be honest, put your hands up if when you heard Chicago Public Library might have a challenge, you're like, yeah, that's for me. Okay, yeah, there's a few of you. Well, hopefully by the end of this we get a few more hands, but I'm going to start with this kid right here. This kid is me. And I had a lot in common with those of you in the room who did not raise your hand. This is me at about 6 years old. It's also about the time that my parents figured out that I was dyslexic. I was having trouble reading and writing. And for those of you who are familiar, dyslexia is 1 in 5 people experience dyslexia. It's just a neurological difference in how we process information. And as it turns out, it makes it very difficult to learn to read and write in the conventional ways that the rest of the world does. And so, unfortunately, what happens for folks who are dyslexic oftentimes is they believe that they can't learn, and then they ultimately don't learn, and they're not able to participate as full members of society. So fortunately for me, that wasn't the case, but I'll get into that in a minute. So as a kid, I have a lot of memories of going to my local public library. I grew up in a small rural community. We had one library, not like Chicago where we have 80. And I went there with my sister regularly after school, and I remember having this sort of feeling around, I really wanted to gain all the knowledge and information that were in the books on the shelves. My local library really was just that. It was a book vault. It was a great place for people who loved to read, which my sister did. It was a great place to go after school to do your homework. But for me, when I bumped up against the library, it wasn't a place that I really felt fully engaged, fully welcome. It felt like something for someone else. And so really that was kind of my early experience struggling with reading and writing. Now, I have to say, part of the opportunity as a kid is that I come from a family of artists. My mom's a painter, and so when she realized that I didn't know that I was going to have trouble learning, she found other ways to engage me in learning. She got me involved in theater and music. We grew up in a rural community, so I did a lot of stuff that was hands-on, and so somehow I managed to stumble my way through school, and I did make it on to a university. So that was great, good story, made it to university. And when I was in college, I was really interested in social justice and was looking at a variety of things, economic inequities across the board. And I was having one of those moments with an advisor who was a history professor, and she was talking with me about sort of career options. And I was thinking about social work, I was thinking about being a teacher. And she's like, have you ever thought about being a librarian? And I was like, what are you talking about? And I literally laughed out loud. I was like, libraries, and I sort of recanted sort of my experience as a kid. And one of the things that she said to me that really stuck is that you have an outdated idea about what public libraries are really about. They're actually these radical institutions. And she talked me through sort of that libraries have actually been on the forefront of social justice, particularly in the United States, that they're much more about connecting people to each other and the information and ideas of today than they are about a particular format. Books are great, don't get me wrong, but she really piqued my interest in the idea of what the value proposition might be for public libraries. And so I went ahead and I decided to take the plunge. I went to library school, became a librarian, and I've spent the last, close to 20 years, so I'm an old guy, traveling around and working in libraries of all different kinds. I've worked in rural libraries in the United States. I've worked with libraries in different parts of the world, Africa, Asia, San Francisco, Seattle, and now I'm the commissioner of the Chicago Public Library. And one of the things that I found through my experience, particularly over the last, say, 10 years, is that libraries are really finding a new moment in our history. That what that professor said to me in college was really true, that libraries are more about connecting people to each other than they are about a particular format. There's just a few images of some cool libraries that I've had a chance to engage with around the world. And one of the things that unites them all is they're much more than a particular format. They're much more about connecting people to each other and ideas. So fast forward to Chicago, the Chicago Public Library. So I've been in Chicago for about, leading the Chicago Public Library for about 4 years. And one of the things that got me really excited about coming to the Chicago Public Library is a program called U Media. How many of you are familiar with U Media? Okay, a few of you. Okay, great. So U Media is a program that we started back in 2009, and it's really based on this idea about creating a space for teens only. So this is for high school students at the Harold Washington Library, or Central Library. And the idea is to create just a fun place for to hang out. So there, if you were to walk into U Media today, you'd certainly see some books in there, but you would also see a recording studio, a full-fledged recording studio. You'd see 3D printers. You'd see a group of kids around gaming consoles, playing video games, but also designing games. You would see another group of students or kids working on fashion and art projects, and you see other folks doing graphic design and graphic arts. And really this idea of the U-Media space really took this radical idea of what a public library can be and really turned it on its head. Really the question was, how can we take this mission of a public library and make it relevant for teens of today? And so we spent the last, since 2009 refining this model. We've spread it to a number of libraries around the city, and it's really also influenced how we think about library service in general in Chicago. There's lots of really fun stories about kids who use the space. This is one of our U-Media kids. He's since graduated out. Like me, this kid here, when he bumped up against the library, he bumped up against the library, but when he landed there, he found a place that was really welcoming to him. This is a kid who was interested in music. He was interested in writing, poetry. So what was different about the two of us is, when I bumped against the library, there really wasn't something there for me, and there was in this case for this kid, and we'll come back to him in a minute. But there's many kids like this gentleman here that when they bump up against whether they're interested in fashion, photography, food, there's a place for them at the library, and we're in this unique moment of really trying to figure out how we can continue to evolve this idea of what a public library can be. So I'm going to show you a short video that gives you a sense of some of the things that we're doing currently in the library, specific to teens around fashion, just to whet your appetite for some possible ideas for what you might do with the challenge that we put in front of you today. So that's just an example. So how many of you expected to see that in your local public library? No? Nobody. Okay, even those who visit U-Media. So, again, this is just a snapshot of some of the stuff that we're up to at the Chicago Public Library. One of the things that we learned from the work with U-Media is that adults also like to learn in new and exciting ways. So we recently opened an advanced manufacturing or maker lab where we have 3D printing, manufacturing, which I'll get into in a minute. We do things related to emerging technology, Arduinos, Google Glass, virtual reality. So there's a lot of things. Essentially, it's a free place to come to experiment, to engage, to learn, and to learn together as a group, really driven by your own interests. A fun story about how our manufacturing lab is being used. So these are 3D printers. You could walk into the Harold Washington Library today and take a class and get on this for free. We've had lots of different people coming in and using this space. Fun examples of folks who are designing jewelry, prototypes for products that they want to design and sell. One of the unlikely groups that have come in was actually a couple of surgeons in Chicago. They came to us and said, hey, look, this was actually one of our first big challenges. We're like, we're surgeons, and we do cranial facial surgery, which is a kind of plastic surgery that's done on the skull. And what they challenged us, they said, essentially, when we do this surgery, we have to create a 3D scan of our patient's head. We send this 3D scan out, takes 6 weeks, then they send us back a 3D image, an actual model of the skull. And the question that we have is, can we do this much faster and much cheaper than the $4,000 in the 6 weeks that it takes? And so we saw that you guys have this lab here. Would you take our challenge? Would you allow us to come in and experiment and write up our results? And we're like, sure, why not? So these guys came in an afternoon. They brought in a file. We actually printed the head of one of their patients. And actually the quality was so great that they were like, yeah, let's go ahead and take this into surgery. And I'm sorry, this is gross, but they took this into surgery, and lo and behold, this very simple consumer level 3D printer that we have at the local branch library can actually be used for doing craniofacial surgery. So these doctors went ahead and wrote their results up. There's this great research paper on how we might leverage this type of technology to make it cheaper and more and quicker to get to surgery for folks who need surgery on their head. So this is just one example of a challenge that came to the library, like just a new idea about how we might take the tools and technologies in the library and take them a little bit further. So as we've been sort of thinking about the public library and talking about sort of the radical mission and the opportunities that come with it, this really isn't a new idea at all. In fact, the core purpose of a public library's mission hasn't changed at all, really, since Benjamin Franklin, who is known to be the founder of the public library model in the United States. So a few hundred years ago, he had a number of big ideas. One of them was that we needed to create public spaces for innovation. His hypothesis was that if we created a public space that really allowed anybody to enter, and they came in really around their own curiosity, that you might create a space where real innovation could happen. You could have a doctor and you could have a blacksmith who are both interested in science, and their natural collision around their shared interest in science is where real innovation would happen. And so in Franklin's very first library that he founded, which is today is a museum in Pennsylvania, you would walk into that library, and certainly it would be surrounded by books, but right at the center of that library is where Franklin did many of his famous experiments with electricity, experiments with science. So when we think about the public library today, that's really the challenge, is how do we take this radical mission of what a public library is intended to be and really allow it to perform that mission more fully today? And that's really what we're up to at the library, and I think is at the heart of the challenge that we're going to put in front of you. So this is the challenge. I challenge you to design the new 21st century experience to illustrate the power of people and information while inspiring and engaging your peers. And as you contemplate that, we're going to come back to this. I want to finish the story of this teen that I showed you earlier. Did anybody recognize who this teen is? Do you recognize him now? So this is Chance, the rapper. He was one of our U-Media teens, and I know you're going to see him later today, so you can ask him about this. You know, Chance also put a challenge to us, and actually put a challenge to me. Chance was one of the first teens that started using the U-Media space when we opened it in 2009, and he and a group of his friends decided to start a weekly open mic night. So he was really interested in music. He wanted to be able to perform, so we did a Wednesday open mic night. A number of years later, after he's achieved some notoriety, he came back to the library and said, hey, we really like this open mic thing that's happening, but how about we do this monthly at the Harold Washington Library and invite teens from all over the city to come together, and I'll MC it. And so again, Chance's challenge to me was, open your doors, allow me to do this. We have about once a month, we have about 400 teens from around the city that come. Chance hosts an open mic. And again, it's really about engaging the teens of our city that really care about music, that really care about lyrics, that really care about writing, and really care about performance. And so this is just one of numerous examples of how you might be able to challenge the public library given the radical mission that we have. Chance has done it, the surgeons have done it, and you can do it too. So, again, we can together reclaim the radical mission of a public library together, and this is the challenge. I challenge you to design the new 21st century library experience to illustrate the power of people and information while inspiring and engaging yourself and your peers. Thank you.
You guys can do better than that. Give them another round of applause. I personally didn't know that the library was so cool. If I knew Chance was there, I would be there all the time. So who here now is purposely going to go to the library just to see Chance? Because I am, right? Yes? Me too. All right, questions? All the way in the back.
Hello, my name is Miata, and I represent Arabian High School today. And my question to you is, Knowing that there's many others that has dyslexia, how do you expect these libraries to help them overcome their struggles?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really about dyslexia is an example of just a different learning style. Some of the examples that I intentionally showed today were really getting at the core of that when you look at different learning styles, the goal that we have at the library is creating an experience that whether you learn primarily through reading, whether you learn through doing kinesthetic learning, or whether you learn from a variety of different ways, that's what we're trying to do with the library. And actually, that is the challenge that we really are putting in front of you. So when you think about the way that you learn best, the topics that interest you the most, and you think about the institutions such as libraries or schools or others, how are we doing on engaging you in your interest? How are we doing in engaging you in the approach? And I think that really is the challenge. If we're not doing it well, then help us figure out how to do it better. And again, the example of Chance sponsoring an open mic is a great example of inspiring kids to learn to speak, to learn to do music production without actually making them sit down and learning to write and learning to read.
All right, so this side of the room really is so quiet. Why is that? Oh, you asked the question. Let's get her, and then I'll come back to you.
Hi, my name is Alyssa Younger. I go to Kenwood. And my question is, would this be brought to the more popular libraries or every library, such as like our neighborhoods?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We started this program at the Harold Washington Library downtown. We've now taken, we've built labs in 13 branch libraries around the city, and we're continuing to grow them because we really want these spaces to be where everyone in the city is. But again, I think thinking back to the challenge, everybody has got a neighborhood library in their community. Part of this challenge could be looking at your own neighborhood library. It could be looking at leveraging an existing library. And again, this is a model that we want to be able to spread beyond Chicago. So yeah, how could this model work in a neighborhood library? And we're experimenting with that right now. There was a question.
Hi, my name is Paul Gilbert, and I was wondering, how is U-Media funded, especially for libraries and communities that don't have as many resources as, say, the downtown area?
Yeah, so the way that we fund, initially U-Media was funded completely with private dollars from the MacArthur Foundation. Now, the vast majority of U-Media is actually funded with city funds. So what's allowed us to expand U-Media from the Harold Washington Library into the neighborhoods is actually we've worked with City Council and the mayor to hire teen librarians. We have some here today, actually, if you could wave. We've got some folks from our team to actually be able to provide these programs in the neighborhood. So we fund it centrally through private dollars, and we also fund it centrally through city dollars.
Okay, my name is Naomi Cobbs, and I was wondering, so you guys have like your own little activities and clubs and stuff that you offer, but can students and like the teens suggest like their own clubs and have their own things that they might want to do?
Yep. So that's a great question. Actually, many of the examples that I just showed you here are based around ideas that have come directly from the teens who are using the space. So the fashion projects that we've been working on, the graphics projects that we've been doing, game design, virtual reality, those are projects that actually have come directly from teens. And the way that the U-Media model works, it isn't a group of instructors that are teaching how to do these things. It's basically people who, that are working artists, professionals that are in this space. And then when people have ideas about workshops they'd like to do, we actually create them with them on the spot. And again, when we think about this particular challenge, I mean, what I was really hoping for and why I got excited about being a part of this is that some of the best ideas about how we can make our public libraries more relevant today are within this room. And so again, thinking about what are the things that you're passionate about? Is it food? Is it fashion? Is it art? Is it photography? Is it science? Is it math? I mean, who knows what those things are? And again, how can we get out of your way and support you in exploring those things in a new and exciting way?
All right, so the common theme is there's like 3 people that are always asking questions, and you guys are the all-stars, so y'all get stickers, but I want to encourage new people, yes, over here in the back, and I'll get to you too, to ask questions. And my guy, Darius, is that your name, in the blue jacket? Dante? Okay, I'm never going to forget.
My name is Kathy Roque, and the schools that can be transformed, can it be a school library, or does it have to be just a public library?
I actually think that the challenge, we want to support your effort in whatever way. So it's a school library, public library. I think it's open to interpretation.
Okay, we had a question in the front.
Hi, I'm Barbara. I'm from Roberta Clemente. And my question is, how do you decide which library gets the fund first? Like, who has more need for the library and being more organized?
In terms of this scaling of some of our work, so we do lots of programs, homework help programs for teenagers. At first, it's driven by demographics, so what is the actual makeup of the community? And so the expanded teen sites have been primarily driven by that. The use of those libraries, how densely populated they are, and what the opportunity is in terms of proximity to schools. So those are the things that we look at, is really demographics and, do we have a population of teens that could benefit from the program?
Hi, I'm Ariel Gomez from Chicago High School for Agricultural Sciences, and my question is there any media that's being used right now to let teenagers know about such programs as YouMedia?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're pretty active on social media. We've got, we go out to events and those kinds of things, but if you've got an idea of a better way that we could be getting the word out, that could actually be part of a challenge, how you spread the word about cool stuff happening in your community.
Okay. Here and then there, and then I think that's it for the questions. Perfect, in the middle, right, perfect.
Hi, my name is Anne Jacques, and I have a question. So, Chicago is going through job crisis, right? And I was thinking about a solution that you should create a job in the library for people who are struggling financially. Have you ever think that can be like an opportunity to help the less fortunate?
That's a great idea. And on that front, we do a lot of training programs to help people. Many Chicagoans, adult Chicagoans, don't have even basic technology skills. So the library does some training around that. But actually, I think that the real opportunity potentially, if this is what you're thinking about, is what are the more sort of progressive things? Like, should we be teaching skills around manufacturing or science or technology? And the library would be a perfect place to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, and then the girl in front of him after that. Perfect.
Hi, I'm Josh Roth, and I'm from Northside College Prep. And I was just wondering what you thought the difference was between educating teens and adults in terms of the importance, and what you thought the long-term relevance of that might be.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, when we first opened YouMedia, it was based on academic research specifically on how teenagers learn. Within the first year, what we realized is it's research on how people learn. And so what we've done with the YouMedia model of really creating a more flexible space that allows people to explore their interests together as a group, but also independently, is really part of the new model for the public library. It was really the inspiration for opening a maker and advanced manufacturing lab. It's the inspiration for a new children's library that we're about to open, and we're opening 14 around the city, that is really driven by what we learned with YouMedia, that while the research was about how teens learn, I mean, it's not very shocking that, as people, we want to come into a space and be self-directed. We want to come into a space and be able to be comfortable in our seating. We want to be able to eat and drink and, and all of those different kinds of things. So basically, YouMedia just sort of underscored this is what people want in general, so we can actually make that part of the core library model as opposed to just for teens.
Okay, right here. And then let's do this. I'm kind of going rogue, so I apologize. But for other questions that you can't answer, why don't you tweet our speakers? You have their handles. Make sure you use our 2 hashtags, hashtag Aspen Challenge and hashtag, what's our winner? Windy City. And then tweet out your question, and they can respond back, and let's kind of go viral. So when it's cell phone time, let's do that as well if you can't get your question asked. Yeah.
Hi, Kirashini again. All right, I wanted to ask for smaller, libraries. Would you have to rebuild the library so you can add in all the extra stuff?
Sometimes, but actually the technology is pretty simple. The recording studios that we've opened in our branch libraries are really cheap. They're just closets. We put up some sort of crate stuff on the wall, and then just buy the, the simple technology. So just for a few $100s, you actually can create a pretty nice, close to $1,000, you create a nice recording studio. So literally, we've been able to scale this work around the city. It doesn't take a brand new building at all. Actually, it just takes a little bit of creativity. And in fact, many of the ideas that have come, whether it's been fashion, game design, etc., many of these things are literally just a few $100s, and which is why I think thinking about this group and how you might innovate on top of the Chicago Public Library or libraries in general, it's not going to take a lot of resources, and if you want to work with us, we're happy to provide them.
All right. One more question. I'm sorry. So would you want to like change the whole library, or would it still be like the traditional quiet library, and then one part, you can go and be creative and do what you want to do? Because some people like to just go to the library because it's quiet and they can sit down, just read, get on the computer or something like that.
You're right, and I think that's part of the challenge, is how do you create a space that really serves the broad and diverse needs of our entire community. I mean, one of the things I think is really funny about a neighborhood library is that you'll go in and you'll see these really active group of kids, doing story time, and there'll be an adult in the corner like, these kids are disturbing me, they're too loud. So yeah, trying to figure out how you get the right balance, and I think that would be a great challenge to take on.
All right, one last question. We have 3 minutes, and you wanted to ask a question, right? Perfect.
My name is Michael Padilla from Roberto Clemente, and we just wanted a clarifying question. Do you want us to create an extension of the U Media project, or to create an entirely new project altogether?
So that's a great question. I really think that everything I showed you today was hopefully to expand your view about what a public library can be. I think our hope with the challenge is that you might come up with a new service we could provide, either within U Media. Is there something, again, I heard somebody talk about food earlier. Should we be doing something with food? Is there an extension of fashion? So really it's thinking about your own individual passion and how might you inspire your peers within the walls of a library to explore that passion. So it really is, it's pretty broad. So if it's coding, food, whatever it would be, come up with a program and that would work.
All right, perfect. Let's give our challenger a round of applause. Thank you.